Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how I automated my entire social media posting schedule across 4 different platforms using AI. And it's posting 15 times a day at scientifically optimal times. Without going too much in details of what the content flywheel system is, essentially the outcome of the content flywheel system will give me records in this format. This is a post table and it would store the media, which essentially is going to be a video, and it could be a short form video or a long form video.
What if I told you there's a gold mine of
All right, so as you can see, this is completely AI generated with the hook and followed by the statements or talking that you do while you're driving on the car or while at home or wherever you are. In fact, this content flywheel system will give you all sorts of ideas for your niche. So all you need to do is record it to build your personal brand. And it also does the thumbnails. So this is a thumbnail that AI created for me. And the biggest challenge is one, content creation, two, content posting, right? Because the posting itself is a chore where you need to think when to post, and then you need to create the captions, you need to create the thumbnails, and so on and so forth. So this system eliminates all those frictions. All right, this is my Airtable interface. Airtable is more or less like an Excel spreadsheet on steroids. The good thing about it is you would be able to store a lot more typed columns that will give you a feel of a database. Okay, so the post table here have some of the key elements. Ideally, we would just need a media which will house the MP4 video file if it is short, and if it is long format, which is about 200-300 megabytes, then I'd rather prefer to store it in a Google Drive and then use it to publish into my social media accounts. And the thumbnail obviously is pretty short, like 2 MB file thumbnails that your AI generates. And we have caption that needs to go along. And finally, the context information, which was used to create the recording or repurposing the content, right? So now, the biggest challenge that I had was, obviously getting all the content, transforming it into a social media post or respective to the platform. Those things were all figured out. And what I wanted was to create a scheduled date and time that will post all my content at the optimal times. And creating this logic was pretty tricky. And in this video, I want to cover exactly that, how I used AI to help me create some of the complex logic and put it into the Airtable automations. All right, so let's review how this scheduled dates are working, right? So let me just clear it off first. And what I've stored is my post schedule. If I expand it, this is the variables table. And for this user growth guide, I would like to post one time as a YouTube long, and I'd like to post 3 shorts a day, 2 times in TikToks, and then 4 times in Instagram, 4 times in X. Okay, so with that being said, with all these variables, creating the logic was pretty time consuming. In fact, it took me a day to kind of try to write it because I have some sort of a coding background. And then I realized I should be using the AI more to write the complete logic. So essentially what I did is I went in here to the views and I downloaded the CSV file, right, to give the structure of what my post table would look like. And then I downloaded the variables table to give the structure of what my variables are stored. And I asked Claude AI. If you're not familiar with Claude, it's another model just like ChatGPT, but it's much better in terms of writing the code. I mean, you can make out a day and night difference when you ask the same question to ChatGPT versus you ask the same thing to the Claude when it comes to writing the code. So the first thing I did was I gave the scenario saying that, hey, I want to write the code. I had some sort of a template in the past which I kind of dwelled around and gave some sort of a sample code. And then I said, what's the main purpose? I want to assign a specific posting time for the post for the current day, depending on the distribution that I have already set in the variables table. And obviously I went through several iterations to reach my optimal times, but it started to really fine tune at some point along the line. And if you look at it, I said, this is like more like, the CSV content from my tables, and then it updated the names and so on and so forth. So I went through several variations, and then I wanted to schedule it on a specific peak hours rather than, just keep bombarding the post sometime at non-peak times where nobody would watch it. Let me go back to Airtable. Essentially, long story short, I got this final code, and as you can see, after 11 iterations, this is my 11th version, and it gave me the code, which was pretty complex, I would say. Right, it gets the information from post table and variables table, and then it gets all the records that needs to be assigned within scheduling time, and then it got the configuration per user. It got the, it passed the configuration, and you'll understand everything about it once I run the code. It groups the records, and finally, this is like a pretty daunting logic for each of the group records. The grouping happens again depending on the platform that you're trying to post and the user, right? So if you look at here, this is where the grouping is happening. Right, and finally it creates the scheduled dates first. So the scheduled date is if you're trying to post on an Instagram, if you're pumping like about 4 pieces of content and you only want to post 2 posts per day, then it's gonna schedule for today 2 posts and tomorrow 2 posts, right? And that's what it's trying to do here. And note guys, I did not write a single line of code here, right? All I did was ask the prompts like what it needs to do. And finally, this is the posting times. And if you look at here, this is pretty amazing, right? It has given out a different optimal posting hours depending on the platform, and it has also created a fallback hours. And in fact, the Claude did the research to come up with the optimal times. I didn't have to do anything. And finally, it creates all this fun logic and creates the posting time. Okay, so now let me just go and see how it really does it in the action. Now this is my schedule date. I cleared off everything. Let me just shorten it a little bit so you can see everything in one view. All right, as you can see, my schedule dates is completely empty now. So just so you know that I am not making this stuff up, I'm gonna go to my Claude, copy the code. This is version 11, and I'm gonna go back and look at the automations here. I've already created an automation to set a schedule date. All it does is it gets triggered a schedule time. The good thing about Airtable is you probably pay about $10 a month and you have access to all these fun automations, right? And I have like several automations for different tasks that it does, right? For example, run content automation, picks the record and sends it, does a web API call to my N8N to do the content processing. But yeah, okay, let's just delve back into this. So I'm gonna do the edit code, just select all, paste it, and I'm gonna run it. Okay, so perfect. So it passed the config saying that my config says I want to post YouTube long 1 time a day, Shorts 3 times, TikTok 2 times, and Instagram 4 times a day. And has found like all this stuff, right? I'm gonna go back to the data now, and voila, look at this, beautiful. So now if I want to just confirm if this is good times, I can just copy this, ask Claude saying that this is what I got. Is it good times? I can just leave it at this is what I got. And then it's going to give the feedback saying that whether it is good or bad. And here you go. It thinks it's perfect. This is social media scheduling mastery. All right, that was good. And as you can see, I didn't have to write any of this code. It would take a good developer at least a day or 2 to write it and test it. And I was able to do it within an hour, right? A lot of prompts back and forth, but still it took about an hour to do it. Now, if you want to learn cool stuff like this, subscribe to my channel and I'll be creating a new community where I'll be posting a lot of free blueprints and free tools and tips that will be helpful to succeed faster and save a lot of time implementing all these sort of simple logics. Okay, thank you for watching the video and hit the subscribe button.